Ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again. I'm a little bit late on the recording for this one, but hopefully you'll be able to excuse that because we've got the drip marketing over here for Qingxiao, however you want to pronounce it. I'm not actually super sure anymore. But yes, the first upcoming unit of version 3.6 is of course going to be the Paragon, the sort of like Sword Saint, and of course the unit that stole kind of a lot of the show in version 3.5's story, as you all might remember. And before we even like go in and we start taking a look at all of the stuff, the details regarding this, I want to show you what Qingxiao did in 3.5 story first. That's her. Yeah, she summons a bunch of swords. A lot of swords. And one thing that I'm not really sure that people actually know about, that I actually found out really recently, is that she summons more swords, like a million other swords surrounding each of these swords. So it's like there's a bunch of big-ass swords, and all of those swords are surrounded by smaller swords. And she just brings them down, and this is what actually occurs. A lot of people think right here she's like team killing everybody, right? Because the gigantic swords just came down. No, what's actually going on is those swords are slamming down, and then the little swords that are surrounding them are going around and like stabbing all the TDs. So that's how it works. That's why these guys are safe over here, even though some gigantic ass swords just landed next to them. So you can probably tell this unit is like really strong. This unit is meant to be like, you know, almost a Sentinel equivalent. And naturally, right, this was one of the most like insane showcases, like power feats I think we've seen from a character, and it really does tell you how important she's supposed to be for the region. Because there's this little post over here I just wanted to like get into first. Apparently, when it comes to like a Paragon, which Qingxiao is, it's a prestigious title of ultimate martial arts mastery and leadership, and they're seen as the pinnacle of non-Sentinel resonators. So essentially, one step below an actual Sentinel. Or really, that's what it's supposed to be, right? And apparently her position, legendary status, has remained unchanged for a century. So she's like old as hell too. Bit of a MILF, as they do say nowadays. So, yeah, that's her. Basically one step below a Sentinel, centuries old, all of that stuff. That's the tee up for this one. So let's go ahead, let's get it open over here and take a look at it. Post-lament Anthropocene, whatever. On the chin strings do eons sing, eternal peace my blade shall bring. Okay, so she's like a bit of a poet over here, a little bit like Dr. Seuss. As you can see, very creative with the words. Fucking nerd. A reclusive sword cultivator. Oh, she is a nerd. Who holds a nominal post as a Jean Paragon of Jean Fong Hold. Aloof, distant, and seemingly untouched by feeling, she is peerless with both chin and the sword. So basically, I guess she does really seem like very cold, very like flat as a character, very like monotone in how she works. Maybe that's due to like all of like the cultivation and like the energy that she's been building up over the past century, and as a result, right, she's sort of like lost her. I'm just saying a bunch of bullshit, but it's like kind of related to like Wuxia and like the lore surrounding it. You know what I'm talking about? Just go play like a Where Winds Meet side quest and you'll understand. To the world, she is the sword transcendent. So like that's like the idea, right? It's like as you get more and more well versed with the sword and like the martial nature, you're less of like a human. Anyways, for years beyond counting, she's old. She has stood guard over these lands, and the cold light of her sword is as keen as the day she first drew it. So this is a character that, with like the, you know, like the age, the length, all of that, I'm hoping that she does end up providing a lot of like, sort of like the upcoming lore, sort of like the background, the history, at least for when it comes to like Jean Fong and Meng Zhou. She seems like one of those people, right, that might have known Rover in the past, especially considering that, I mean, they said it a bunch of times, she's old as hell. Now, though, when it comes to the art, we're seeing naturally a lot of stuff, right? And I don't think that her art over here is going to do a lot of justice to, like, her character, especially considering everything that we've already seen her do in the story itself. So this art over here, you kind of see her, like, of course, like, on the mountain. You see a bunch of, like, the billowing things. And the one thing that you'll probably notice is that this looks like really, really, really Arrow. almost so arrow to the point where there's not really too much of a discussion to have other than, man, this reminds me a lot of like Chakota Splash Art. She's even got like the little like, you know, the silhouette and stuff over here. So there's not really too much of a question to have when it comes to her attribute, because we've already gotten some news regarding a new Sonata set that, well, was shown in the game in the new update highlight over here. And, well, you can just go ahead and grind it right now. And that's going to be this one. Heart of Evil's Purge, 2-piece effect, arrow damage, and then inflicting Toon Strain, shifting, increases critical damage, and grants arrow damage bonus. This is where we're going to really start getting into, like, the kit her discussion over here. Because, guys, it's pretty much confirmed what you should be doing in the present. And there are some decisions you need to make now, depending on your roster, if you're interested in Qingxiao. So let's go ahead. Let's start breaking it all down. So you can go ahead and you can grind this set in-game. And you can see arrow damage plus 10% on the 2-piece, and then over there, inflicting Toon Strain shifting increases critical damage by 20%, and then arrow damage bonus by 30%. This is a pretty strong set, but what you'll notice across like a bunch of its pieces is that it doesn't really seem to have like an active echo that seems to like buff a certain damage type, right? You don't really know at a first glance what the damage types are really supposed to be, because there really are like no echoes on this set. And then the forecast, well, it's buffing the fusion heavy attacker that shows up on the other set. So, well, what's one thing you notice though in that kit? Toon Strained. And what do you notice over here when you go ahead and you take a look at the standard weapon banner? We've had this bad boy on the roster over here that's kind of just been not doing anything for a very long time, and that is Radiance Cleaver. And what this weapon does is dealing damage to targets under Toon Strain Interfered, which is the requirement to activate that set, grants a 24% liberation damage bonus for 3 seconds. So you can kind of see what's going on over here. This buffs liberation damage. It's also interacting with Toon Strain Interfered. There's another standard weapon, though, that does interact with Toon Strain Interfered, and it's this one. And some people might be saying, oh, Qingxiao is 100% a sword user, right? I see her using a sword in her splash art. Guess what, guys? She also summons big swords, too. And those little swords, they just look like her little swords. And the last time I saw somebody... You know what I see in Lucilla's splash art? She has a gun. She's a rectifier. So you kind of like see what's going on over here, right? We're talking about a sword. You're saying it's a sword, not a broad blade, when the one's just a small sword, the other's a bigger sword. And guys, in the lore, I can confirm Qingxiao literally uses big swords and small swords. Like she's got both. So like she has the ability to make small swords that are shaped like the smaller swords, not broad blade size. That's like confirmed in her kit. So it almost makes even more sense that she would be broad blade, because she's seen making short swords or swords of that size, well, in lore. So yeah, that's just sort of like the idea when it comes to like the different weapon types. But the effect of this one is dealing damage to targets under Toon Strain Interfered grants a 24% resonance skill damage bonus. And then the main stat of this thing is like ER, and this is like it doesn't look very good, right? The other one looked a lot better, especially with that crit damage, or with you know, that crit damage investment over there. It looked a lot better. And this is the other thing. It scales with resonance skill. This is where we kind of get to a bit of a, well, discussion regarding a character on the roster that you can pull on banner right now called Lene. So what happens when you go ahead and you take a look at Lene's kit over here, right? She has another resonance mode, aside from her Toon Rupture one, which 99.9% of people are using right now. Nobody's really using this form, the one that applies Toon Strain. And the reason for that is, well, Denya's a lot better for Luke, because Lene buffs resonance liberation damage. So you can kind of see what's going on over here, right? The pieces are starting to fit together. Lene is the sub DPS that has a Toon Strain mode that isn't being used, because she buffs liberation damage. And Luke Herson, the other Toon Strain DPS, is a basic attack damage dealer. And so Lene's on banner right now. She's got a Toon Strain mode that's useless. And now there's a Toon Strain DPS coming out that happens to also have the perfect standard weapon for that kit in the shop. So you can kind of see how the pieces are fitting together, right? Qingxiao being a resonance liberation Toon Strain broad blade DPS truly does seem like the solution that makes the most sense regarding everything you've seen, right? Otherwise, just assume that she's a sword user, right? Hey, she could be a sword user. Then this is what she's got. Maybe she is an ER scaling, resonance skill, damage dealing, tune strain, DPS as well. And then she's got to wait for her best in slot sub DPS. That doesn't make too much sense to me, especially knowing that Kuro just put Lene on banner. And so, right, knowing that kit and knowing also as well, Imeth is up. Guys, if you end up pulling Lene, then you're going to be that one dude that really wants to end up pulling Qingxiao as well as Imeth in the next set of banners. And that is truly an intelligent move from Kuro Games if the goal is to extract a bunch of value from its players. Because, yeah, that would be pretty brutal, right, for your wallet, especially if you were somebody that wasn't owning those characters in the first place. But that is my viewpoint on her kit, right? That is my viewpoint on what I think she's going to do. I think she's going to basically be Lene's other half, become Imeth's competition, and sort of from there, right, have that role on the roster. But knowing that she has, like, this level of sort of, like, power in the lore as well, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like her character release is a little bit crazy because she does seem like one of the strongest units in the universe, right? Not just, like, on the roster. She kind of feels like the strongest unit in the universe. And that's just the personal take that I have about that. And is that going to interfere with the lore of units like Cardathea and stuff like that? Potentially, right? Because she's another arrow DPS sort of character. Now, this is the final bit that we got over here when it comes to Qingxiao. It's going to be her post-lament, whatever, her little short. We got a little bit extra over here. Qingxiao's mastery lies in the Heart Sword. She forges thought itself into sword intent. Oh gosh, yep, no, those are special terms. Splitting it in an instant into 10,000 flying blades that answer her will. So she's basically got like unlimited blade works surrounding everything. Like this is like a million. This is like 5 unlimited blade works surrounding each of these big swords. So like truly, especially comparing it to like maybe some other like gacha IPs and stuff like that, the relative power strength, the characters, bro, she kind of seems like God. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who could 1v1. I think she beats everybody on the roster. But that's just an example of like that sword intent that's splitting. Where the sword light lands, malice dissolves and the wicked flee. Oh, so that's how she does it. So basically her swords are magical. She literally has friendly fire turned off. Her skill with the blade was earned through training, yet it has carried her beyond the need for one. A plucked string, a drifting petal, a falling leaf in her hands. Any of them is a sword. Okay. Drifting petal, falling leaf. Okay. Very naturey, very arrowy. Now let's check this out. Okay, this thing is like kind of loud as hell. Yeah, no, they're really focusing on the swords. And the goonery. Yeah, no, she just looks straight emotionless, man. And I assume that just has to be the case when you've been living for this long. And I hope that part of the story is like at least beginning to see a more like emotional or just like, I don't know, like a personality side to her. Because good golly gee, guys, the way that I would kind of like have described her in the story is she kind of just like aura farms and then like leaves. That really kind of does feel like her role in this story. And we get so little exposure to like her as a character, more just her as like the legend. So hopefully that's something that's going to be really dove into. And from there, we really get to see a bit more of like that history of the land, how Rover weaves in, all of that stuff. Should be a fun time. And I imagine somebody that's lived for 100+ years is the best person to tell that story. Should be a fun one. And of course, just as like some spoilers for what's ahead, I'm going to put like 10 million like dollars in Monopoly money on the next unit being released as drip marketing. It's going to be Jingran, the guy with like the lamp of Nether Road. You know, the guy with the lamp. Oh, sorry, I forgot. She's got Heart of Evil's Purge. So I forgot to mention this last thing. Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, every new Echo set is like named after the user. The one about feathers is for the bird girls. The one about purging evil is for the evil purger, who's like all about like literally her entire characterization is about purging evil. Like, that's everywhere. And then you got the Lamp of Nether Road. The guy with the lamp is probably going to have that set. So Jing Ran is who I see coming up next. Get ready for that one. Should be a fun reveal as well. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.